What's going on, Japan? Here today with a very special guest, my good friend, Jessica-chan!
Oh my god, don't.
We can just go by her new nickname that you guys have given her in one of our recent videos, Hot Jess.
Oh!
From the Momotaro Shrine video. She's been enjoying the new nickname, so thank you guys for that. Anyway, today's theme, we're going to be talking about the reality of studying abroad in Japan. Jess and I actually studied abroad together in Japan 7 years ago. I can't believe that was 7 years ago.
I feel old!
And anyway, so you guys have been asking for more videos about culture in Japan, what it's like living in Japan, so we thought we'd start with this topic since this is where it sort of all began, our first introduction into the wonderful, mysterious country that is Japan. And this video is a little bit long, so we'll be adding a list of topics that we'll be talking about, so you can check that there. There's going to be timestamps down below, so if you want to skip to a section that you're more interested in, you can click that timestamp. To get started, we're going to do a little quick introduction, some background information about ourselves since we both come from different countries, different backgrounds, and our study abroad experience is very different. That's one of the reasons why we're having Jess on the channel today, just so we can get multiple perspectives. Some background information about me. I'm an American from Michigan, the beautiful Great Lakes state. We have no mountains, so the terrain is very different from Japan. And we also have nice, cool summers, which is totally different than the hot, humid summers here in Japan. And I started studying Japanese in university in my last year as an elective class before I decided to study abroad and postpone my graduation. I talked about this more in detail in my How Did I Learn Japanese video. So if you haven't seen that yet, go ahead and check it out. There's a link up in the top right corner. And so let's hear a little bit about Jess's background then.
I'm from England and Italy, and I studied abroad in Japan from my British university. So I studied in the UK and then came here.
And your major was Japanese,
My
right?
major was, yes, Japanese studies. 4 years. Intense.
Our next point on the list is why Japan?
Why Japan? Why Japan?
You probably know I'm a bit of a nerd. And I feel like this is kind of like the most typical answer you get is like, I liked anime as a child and I like Japanese culture. So I like the samurai films and ninja and Pokemon and all those things. So, I mean, that was my first exposure because like you're a kid and you don't choose like how you're exposed to a country, and like every kid loves cartoons. So that was my first exposure into Japanese culture, and I didn't really have a super strong desire to start learning Japanese. I enjoyed watching anime as a kid and stuff like that, but it wasn't to the point where like I want to learn the language, I want to like go live in Japan and that kind of stuff. It was just kind of like that was all I knew about it, and I didn't know much. But in my last year of university, my roommate decided to start taking an elective Japanese class, and he didn't want to go alone, so he invited me to go along with him. And
Bros.
I decided just to go and check it out, and I was like, I'm not taking the course for real, so I'll just audit it, and I don't get a grade, so it doesn't really affect anything. There's no pressure. And I actually ended up really enjoying it. The teacher was really funny, and then I just sort of realized like this is something I could learn, and it just went from there. I just instantly became obsessed, and I was like, I need to start learning Japanese. But I didn't start until my last year of university, so it was kind of like a last minute new passion kind of thing before job hunting. So what about you? Why Japan?
Why Japan? I don't know. I guess the start is probably similar to yours. So every kid watches cartoons, and when I was little, I grew up in Italy. So Italy didn't have Cartoon Network, we had anime.
You just had Anime Channel?
Yeah. And like the good anime, not the recent ones where they all look the same. Sorry.
You're like hipster when it comes to anime.
I'm hipster when it comes to many things.
So what qualifies as a good anime?
Content. Not just okay, so we're gonna have 1,000 characters, then half of them are gonna die, so we're gonna have 6 series that never end. Never!
Is this One Piece?
Yeah. And I actually liked One Piece at the beginning. I was a huge fan for like the first 10 episodes. And then I saw where it was going. Like, nowhere.
I'm the opposite. I hated One Piece at the beginning, and now I've just like become so attached to the story because like there's all these like cliffhangers that I haven't solved yet, and so I need to know like what happened. So I watch it out of obligation and not out of like
I can't do
just enjoy
that.
it.
No. I think the only one I did that for was Dragon Ball. Amazing.
Dragon Ball's good. Tung's reading Dragon Ball right now. A great manga to read if you're trying to find a good manga to read.
Agreed. And I rarely agree with this guy.
Yes.
So yes, I guess the start was the same.
Okay. So the next point is, why did we decide to study abroad and how did we choose where to go? So for me, we had a partnership program. I'm guessing you had a similar thing, like an exchange program.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I came from a small university in Kentucky where you wouldn't think that there'd be an exchange program with a Japanese university, but we actually had quite a few, just because it's easier for Japanese people to assimilate into a more countryside setting. And because of that program, I chose one of the Japanese friends that I made at my university was going back to Nagoya, so we had a strong connection with that university, and I decided to do that program. So most people, when they come to Japan, they choose like Tokyo or Osaka if they can. Not too many people choose Nagoya, but that's the main reason I chose Nagoya. I didn't really know much about it, but it seemed like a good place to be. And
the hipster choice.
Oh, yeah, so I guess I didn't really answer yet why I decided to study abroad. So my graduation day was set. I was already a senior, and I had already finished all of the classes I needed to graduate with my degree, which was in business and accounting, so completely
unrelated.
But I just sort of decided like I wanted to experience studying abroad while I had the choice or the ability to do so, because once you get a full-time job and usually you sort of start to settle down, you get a house, you get a family, you buy a car, you get a pet, and like once you get all those things, it becomes a lot more difficult to travel the world. So I decided it was time to leave the nest.
Aww.
And spread my wings.
Enough of the wings. Let's cut those.
The next thing we should mention is just our Japanese level before going into study abroad. Some people go study abroad in Japan with zero Japanese ability. Some of the people we met on the program started that way. They had no experience. So you can definitely do it with no Japanese ability going in. I had 1 year of pretty intensive study, and Jess had, how many years did you study before you went?
2 years, and then study abroad is in your 3rd year.
Okay. So you didn't study before university at all?
No.
Okay. So yeah, we both went in with a moderate level of experience, 1 year and 2 years going into our study abroad. And our program was pretty big. There were about 100 people in our program, and when we arrived, they made us take these placement tests. So they rank you, and it was pretty intensive.
That was so long. It was like 5 hours.
Yeah. Like Japanese tests are pretty intensive, and I got placed into a middle level class, which was pretty good for me considering I was the only one in that class who had only studied 1 year. Everyone had at least like 2 years of experience, and Jess got into the
top 2
because she's a tensai.
And I'm brilliant.
No. But I got placed in a higher kanji class than her.
That is undeniably true, yes.
Yes. So yeah, we kind of went in with a little bit mixed strong points. So I had the strong point of focusing on kanji and reading. I just was obsessed with kanji and was studying it like every night before going to bed. Whereas Jess had more of a social life and speaking ability. So she was able to communicate and talk to people more often, and I was able to read a little bit more. And we should also talk about how did our Japanese level change from the study abroad experience? Let's start with you this time. So what do you think? Did your Japanese improve from the study abroad program?
It's hard for your Japanese not to improve when you're studying abroad. With any language, really. You're experiencing it firsthand. So
right.
It has to. Like there's no way unless you sit in your room every day, all day, and don't communicate.
Like I did.
But yes, I guess my Japanese changed in 2 ways. One, I learned a lot of vocabulary that maybe I shouldn't have learned from my friends, and I put on an accent when I speak Japanese because my friends were from Mie. And the Mie area speaks sort of a Kansai Ben, Kansai accent.
Yeah, Mie Ben.
Yeah.
It's similar to Kansai Ben.
So people had a hard time understanding why I had that accent. How did that happen?
That's a good thing. You got unique Japanese speaking ability.
How about you?
Yeah, for me, like, we both were scheduled to study abroad for 1 full year, and I actually cut my study abroad down to a half year. there are multiple reasons. One was financial. I started to get worried because it's a bit expensive to study abroad if you don't get any good scholarships. And my normal scholarship from the business and accounting department didn't apply anymore because the study abroad it was completely unrelated. So I was pretty much paying full price, and I just was kind of getting anxious and nervous, like I need to go home and find a job. So there was a bit more pressure on me. So I only did the one semester, but there was definitely a huge improvement. Like, we're studying 3 hours Japanese every morning, so that and living in Japan, like going out doing daily tasks. I think the classes and the dedicated study routine helped a lot, but I think the points where I felt like I improved the most in my Japanese was when I had to deal with real life situation that you don't prepare for. Like, if there's a textbook, there's like a prepared routine that you like just follow, like a pattern. But if you're in a situation like you have to get a new cell phone contract and they're like telling you can't do this because your name is foreign, and you need to figure out the process without like sort of any guidance, and those kinds of situations really pushed me, I think, to the next level. And of course, just being in the environment, living in Japan and studying regularly every day helped that growth. This video is starting to get a little bit long, so we're going to try and go a bit faster. The next thing we want to talk about are good and bad points about Japan and studying abroad in Japan. They're kind of mixed together. We've got a mini list here,
which we don't really follow very well.
So one of the big things that we both agreed on was good friendships. So the people that study abroad in Japan are from all over the place. Like, Jess is from half Italy and half England. There were people from Mexico, different European countries like Latvia and
France.
Yeah, France. And then there's also people from China and Korea, Taiwan, and just people from all over the place are coming to study abroad in Japan. So you get a lot of exposure, not to just Japanese culture, but also from people around the world.
And it's definitely an experience. You learn a lot, even from people who are not Japanese.
Yeah. And these are awesome, these are pretty cool connections. Like, a lot of people that studied abroad at our university, we're still in contact with, or we follow them on Facebook, and now they're living in different parts of the world. And it's just cool to have connections with people around the world. Like, when we went back to the US, I met up with some people that I studied abroad with after the study abroad program, and we still maintain contact. And now some people who studied abroad still live around this area. We hang out.
Yeah, I'm having pizza with one of the guys tomorrow.
Yeah, so lots of nice connections. Other good points?
Well, what about Japanese friendships?
Yes.
Did you make any Japanese friends in your nerdiness?
That's actually a problem that I had. I didn't really socialize as much as I should have with the Japanese people in the school and the program. So I kind of set these goals to myself, like I want to speak fluent Japanese. Like, in just 1 year I'm going to be like super fluent, and to do so, like, there's a lot of kanji you need to learn, a lot of vocabulary that you need to learn. A lot of the people in my classes were people who'd studied for like 2 or 3 years, and they knew a lot of stuff that I didn't know, and I just felt like I was always chasing after like the advanced people, like you as well.
Yeah,
so
your competitive side.
Yeah. So I felt like, I don't know, I just became obsessed, and I had the idea that like studying from a book and reading kanji was the best way to study, whereas I liked socializing with people, but I get frustrated with myself that I wouldn't be able to speak as well as I wanted to. And I felt that by like caving in and like just using English all the time was just sort of like, I guess, giving up in a way. So I was just like motivated to just study kanji, and grammar until I could get to the point where I could speak naturally. But that's kind of a naive thought. You need to practice speaking to get better at speaking. So that was a mistake that I kind of regret a little bit. But I think you made a lot more Japanese friends than I did.
Yeah, I was the opposite of Cruz. I'm what the youth now calls paripi.
The youth.
The youth. We're not young anymore, so the youth. They call.
Is paripi like party people?
Yeah, paripi, party people.
Yeah.
So I joined a club at university, the softball club. So I made a lot of friends through the club, and then through those friends, it just expanded. So I was out not every night, but definitely every week. Now, don't take this the weird way. I didn't go out and do crazy things. I went to the local bar and enjoyed.
Izakaya.
Yeah, the izakaya, and I just had a nice time. We went on trips. We went on drives. We went to USJ. So we did a lot of traveling and experiencing Japanese things.
Yeah. So I think our friend group was quite different. Like I mostly hung out with the other ryugakusei, or the other exchange students. And we'd go on trips, like we all went on a big trip to Osaka together. It was a lot of fun. But I think you were mostly hanging out with like Japanese people and actually integrating into like the culture and the people there.
Yeah, I think maybe 80% of my friends were Japanese.
We were not friends.
No, we were absolutely not friends. Like
we weren't like enemies, but we
No.
just didn't have any similar interests at that time.
no, it was just like, oh, he exists. I've
Yeah.
seen him around.
Yeah.
And actually, no, I'd seen him around a few times. I don't know where the rest of the time.
I was very elusive. I would just finish class and I'd go home and cook lunch, and then I'd go to like the gym and work out. And
I would.
We
be,
were in opposite places. Like I'd be in the gym and you'd be in like the smoking area.
Yes.
We were like complete opposites.
I was always at uni.
Yeah, I was like
I was hanging out.
never at uni. I actually kind of like didn't like being looked at a lot.
No.
Like, it's kind of weird. Like, I know I run a YouTube channel now. The point of a YouTube channel is like you're being watched, but I don't really like standing out in a crowd, I guess. Like, everyone's just looking at you. And that's one thing you'll experience studying abroad, especially if you're like if you're white, if you have white skin and you study abroad at a university in Asia, especially in like Japan, everyone's just gonna like look at you.
Yeah.
Eventually they get over it.
Or you get over it.
Yeah, eventually you just kind of adapt to it and get used to it, but that's kind of another negative or positive, depending on what type of person you are. Thing that you have to deal with here in Japan is that you're going to be looked at no matter where you go at. If you go to a supermarket, you're going to be looked at, you're going to be pointed at, and same thing at the university. Like, if you're just trying to walk and go buy some bread, everyone's just going to turn and be like,
Oh my god, you're white.
yeah, so
Yeah, I am.
it is what it is.
Yeah, you get used to it.
So, other good points.
Experiences. So what did you experience in Japan?
Yeah, they did a lot of excursions and like group trips that were run by the university. So, for example, we went to Nagoya Castle.
I didn't go.
Well, I think whatever excursions we went on the different ones. So like I went to the Nagoya Castle one.
I didn't go. I was with my friends.
What's the other one? Shirakawa-go?
Shirakawa-go. I didn't go.
Yeah, I went to that one. So all the ones that I went to, she didn't go, but all the ones she went to, like I didn't go.
I went to Zazen and I went to Meijimura.
Meijimura. Yeah, we're gonna be making a cycling video going there pretty soon, so make sure to check that out when it's done. We'll add the link here. Not we as in me and Jess.
Yeah, I will not
we
be.
as in my wife and I, my real wife.
Yeah, the office husband will be sleeping. Yeah, I think that's it actually. I didn't actually join the university trips. I didn't actually join that.
You just went out with your friends.
Yeah, I just enjoyed friend trips.
Friends trips. So yeah, the other great thing about living in Japan is just you have this opportunity to go out and do all these trips. They might be run by your university. You might just go and do it on your own with your group of friends. But the other good thing we mentioned was the transportation network. Like, everyone knows about this, but it's worth mentioning. Like, there's trains and buses that go everywhere, so you don't need a car. You don't need a friend with a car. You're not limited in where you can go. If you have money, you can buy a train ticket and pretty much go anywhere in Japan. You can take a bus and get to Mount Fuji in one day. You can take a bus to Tokyo. It's super cheap if you want to save money versus the train.
Actually, I had the opposite image when I studied abroad. Because I studied in Oxford, and Oxford is so small. You can just walk anywhere. But here, if I wanted to go shopping or I wanted to go to town, I had to walk to the bus stop, take the bus, and then take the subway.
That kind of reminds me of another point we wanted to talk about, and that's the absence of college towns. There's no college town feel here. Like, in the US, we have really big universities and these really big sort of, I guess, party towns, or just really active areas where you can there's a lot of things that you can do, a lot of places that you can go to hang out. I'm guessing it's the same in the UK.
Yeah. I mean, Oxford is a university city.
Right.
Like, maybe at least 50% is just students.
Yeah.
So.
And everyone here kind of commutes, so we might make another video in the future about like differences of being a student in Japan versus being a student in the US or the UK. If you're interested in that video, let us know in the comments and we'll try and hopefully make it if there's enough interest. But yeah, everyone commutes here in Japan, and they commute ridiculous times, like 2 hours one way.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, so everyone's just so busy. moving here that there's no time for like or if there's ever a party you can't like invite people over to your house. Is that another negative thing about living here is just the noise complaints that you have to deal with. Like there's a lot of things I would do normally in my home back in the US, like just play guitar at night, sing in my room, but you can't do those things here because someone will file a noise complaint. The walls are super thin.
I think I got lucky though during my study abroad. My neighbors were both Chinese girls and they never complained, and I had weekly parties in my room. There wasn't a band or anything, like no party. I had tea parties. I drank tea. I don't know what my friends drank, but
Jess is British, so
I am British, so I need tea to survive.
Yes.
So we had weekly tea parties and my neighbors never complained, but I heard from other friends that there was constantly a knock on the wall, or the RA just coming and saying, "Oh, sorry, could you turn it down? It's being too loud."
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, it depends on who you're living next to. If you've got good relations with your neighbors, then it might not be a problem. But if you don't know your neighbors, and most often you don't know your neighbors in Japan, so you can't really have house parties and people go out to izakayas. So that was something I also wasn't really accustomed to here, and that took a while to get used to. So yeah, speaking of izakayas, the one other thing, there's a ton of good things and other maybe bad things that you should be aware of, but these are just the main things on our list. The other thing we need to mention is food. Food. I love ramen. I love sushi. I love white rice.
I love everything. I love tofu. Actually, I loved ramen when I was studying abroad. And then I ate so much ramen that even just the smell made me sick for like years. After my study abroad,
she still won't go eat ramen with me.
With you, because he is so noisy when he eats. It's just like sound.
Slurper.
You are a slurper. You're a noisy slurper. So I don't go eat ramen with him. Other people, yes.
So when I first moved to Japan, I thought the food was really expensive. Like that was my first impression. And now that I've lived here for a couple years, I don't really have that impression anymore. It's just you need to know where to go, where you can get things cheaply, and yeah, there's a lot of cheap options. If you're a student, you can go to like the donburi restaurants, big chains like Sukiya, Matsuya, Yoshinoya. So that's a cheap option. Another good cheap option is going to an udon restaurant. You can get a big bowl of udon for like 300, 400 yen, and it's really filling, really good. If you're cooking on your own, you're trying to save money, like yakisoba, there's a lot of ingredients that you can buy here cheaper than you can buy in the US, but then the opposite is also true. Like if you want to buy something like cheese, you can't get good cheese here, so you might have to make some dietary sacrifices. There's not much, they don't eat much dairy here. There is good milk, a fairly decent milk.
I don't eat dairy, so I don't have a problem. But if I want to cook Italian food, there is a problem.
Yes.
It's expensive to buy the ingredients. Even rice. I can't use Japanese rice.
Right, it's not the long grain.
Yeah, so I have to import the rice.
Yeah, and the pasta noodles here are horrible.
Don't get me started.
So yeah, there's a lot of good food here, of course, but there are things like that we miss from our home countries. We might make another video about that. For me, like one of the biggest things I miss is like pizza, American pizza.
Yeah.
Not Italian pizza. There's actually a bunch of like Italian pizza places here that I have yet to find good American pizza here. There's Domino's everywhere, but it's just like, it's like 70% satisfactory. You're like kind of 70% satisfied, but like the 30% is like, I want the real stuff.
I'm not gonna comment.
While we're on the train of thought of negative thoughts and bad things that you should be aware of, there's a few other things that we didn't mention from our list yet. So we mentioned there's no college town vibe here. There's noise complaints. And things are a little bit expensive, so you might need to make sure you budget. You need to budget how much money that you're going to use every month, what you're going to spend on groceries, what you're going to use for fun and transportation. So
did you ever go over your budget?
No, but I didn't buy things.
Such a good kid.
I didn't buy alcohol. I didn't go out. I was trying to save as much money as possible because I was spending so much money to study abroad.
In my first month, I spent more than I should have, and I was left with so little that I decided to use my student card to buy like a bunch of cup noodles and milk to survive the week.
our university had a student card which works just like a credit card. So you can rack up like kind of unlimited debt on your student card, which is really crazy that they just kind of give this to you. With a credit card, you have to apply for it, but this is just kind of like, here's your student card. It's an unlimited credit card. Just buy whatever and pay us back later. So yeah, learn to budget, especially if you're supporting yourself while studying abroad. You can definitely blow through your money really quickly, like this one. The only other main negative thing was the weather that you need to be cautious about. Right now we're in rain season and it's been raining the last few days straight. There's a typhoon north of us in the North Sea, and this leads to other things like mudslides and just crazy humidity that is having a nice toll on Jess's hair.
Yes, I'm not enjoying this.
And the other thing is earthquakes, which just happen all the time. Like it's Japan.
Anytime.
And all the buildings are built like to withstand earthquakes to a pretty decent degree of safety. So anyway, those are the main things that we mentioned that we could think about. Again, this video is like so long and it's difficult to like wrap our heads around everything.
Well,
but
it's difficult to just summarize one whole year in 20 minutes.
Right. This video has gotten quite long, so we're going to end things here for now. If there's any other specific questions that you want us to go over, leave it down in the comments and we'll make a separate video about that. If you are considering studying abroad in Japan, we hope that hearing from our experiences was a little bit helpful to you. And good luck in your Japanese studies, good luck in your study abroad. Japan's a great place to live, a great place to study, and there's a lot more good points that I want to go over, but it's not the point of this video. So I hope that you guys got something out of this and found it useful. Any closing message from you, Jess?
Just enjoy it. Don't stay in your room.
Yes, don't be like me.
Don't follow his example. Don't follow mine either. Just do what you feel like doing.
Be right in the middle.
Enjoy, yeah. Like Wolfie.
Like Wolfie-chan. So that's going to be it for today. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Jess, for joining me today. If you want Hot Jess to appear in another video, make sure to give this video a like and leave your questions down below for her and for me. We'll see you next time here on Tubo Cruise, hopefully with more of our regular content of cycling and life around Japan. And of course, we'll also be making more videos like this in the future if you guys are interested. That's it. お疲れ様でした。
お疲れ様でした。
またね。